Hey friends, Jessie here. If you're brand new, welcome to our homestead in the middle of the Ozark Mountains. And if you are returning, as always, I very much appreciate you and welcome back. Well, y'all, I asked, you answered, and this video is a result of your reply. Many of you said you wanted to see more DIYs in my videos, so I decided to dedicate this entire video to DIYs. But before that, we are going on a little field trip. Hard to believe, but Irish June is almost 4 months old, so I thought it only fitting that it'd be time for her to visit her very first cave. Here in the Ozarks, we're known for our caves, so if you ever make a trip here, I'd highly recommend you visit one. I'm not quite sure what it is about these ancient marvels, but something about them beckons me back over and over and over again. After we had all had our cavern fill, we had a quick hike back to the car, loaded up, and headed home. And that, my friends, brings us to our first DIY. In spite of only seeing glimpses of the sun in what seems like forever, I decided to make a Suncatcher in preparation for the summer rays. For this project, you'll need sea glass, fishing line, and some sort of apparatus to hang the strands we'll be making from. For the hanging apparatus, Blake went and cut a branch off of one of our trees. I left it outside in order for the bark to peel off easily. After the bark was removed, I gave it a really quick sanding. Next, because the sea glass is in different shades, shapes, and sizes, I laid them out accordingly. For this next project, we're going to be making driftwood candle holders. I am always looking for any excuse to include driftwood within my projects. It's very easily accessible for us as we live by the lake and we are always finding it washed up on the shore. If you don't live by a body of water or unable to find it, it is easily found on Amazon. Just search driftwood. So we are going to be using the drill and a drill bit that we already have and simply making a partial hole within the wood. Your drill bit size will be dependent on your taper candle size. I went with the 1/2-inch candle because it matched the size of our drill bit. Make sure you're aware and considerate of the angle you're holding your driftwood as you drill. This will ensure that your candlestick will stand vertically. In my opinion, some of the best DIYs require the least amount of effort. These would be perfect for an evening dinner party in the summer. Cover your table with the simple linen, string these across it, and you've got yourself low effort, high impact centerpieces. Okay, so this next DIY happens to be one of my favorites. I wasn't exactly sure how well it'd work out, but in the end, it turned out better than expected. For this next DIY, we're going to be making a concrete candle holder. It not only holds your candle, but it also holds your matches, and it has a striker on the back. So I'm a big user of molds. I use them for candles all the time, and now concrete is on that list. I'll link these molds in the description box, but in the meantime, let's head out to mix the concrete because y'all know how messy I am. I'm not only messy, but I'm also impatient, so we are going to be using Quikrete. If you've never heard of Quikrete, it is basically just a really fast drying concrete. All directions are different depending on which product you choose, so I won't bore you with the instructions as far as this one goes. I will let you know though, when I was recording my first attempt, I mixed the solution entirely too thick, as Blake let me know. The next go around, I mixed it to about a yogurt consistency, for lack of a better way of explaining it, and it turned out much better. And y'all can see how fancy we are around here as I'm using a found stick to both mix and pour. One thing I'm not showing that I found extremely important, and I liken it to after you pour the batter of cake into the pan, is tapping the bottom to make sure the bubbles rise to the top. Whichever product you use will let you know exactly how long you need to wait for it to dry. Once again, I am impatient. You can see mine is still dark in some areas. I couldn't wait for it to dry. I was too excited to see how it would turn out. I would highly recommend letting yours fully cure. And once again, further driving home the fact that I am extremely messy, I had Quikrete all over the sides of my mold, so I am going to take it off over the trash can to make sure all those extra bits don't go all over the house. I always hold my breath during this portion of the process, as you're not quite sure whether your attempt was a success or not, but man, does it feel so good when what at first feels like a shot in the dark is now recognized as a target hit. Normally our kitchen is filled to the brim, but today I've got it all to myself. With that in mind, I thought it no better time than to make some candles. The first batch will be used to fill our newly made concrete vessel, and the second is inspired by a few I already have. We'll get back to that in a second. For now, let's focus on the former. I just love the slow and steady process a homemade candle requires. Very few skills are needed, if any. There are several ways to go about making them, be it a double broiler or the microwave. There are numerous types of wax to choose from, and wick possibilities are almost too many to count. Whether you begin with a solid piece of wax or pellets, the result is a homemade candle in the end. Point is, don't get caught in the weeds that are the endless array of options. Choose a way that works for you and you're good to go. I will say a double broiler will be needed for other types of candles, but I'll save that for a future video. One reason I began making our own candles was the fact that most of the store-bought candles were filled with toxins. That being said, I want to make sure that the wax and the wick that I choose to use do not contain them. I'll link my products in the description box if you're interested. If I'm choosing not to color my wax, I'll use an unstrained version, which will be yellow. But if I'm going to color it, I want to make sure it's white, and I will go for an option that has been strained. The matches that we purchased come with several striking stickers, so in order to elevate this candle holder even more, I decided to stick one on the back. So as I stated before, for this next project, I found inspiration from an item I already had. You've probably seen them strung all over my house. I am absolutely in love with these hand-scraped candlesticks. Obviously, these were something that could be purchased at one time. Unfortunately, I can't find them anymore, but these taper candles in the form of a pillar candle was something that I could never find. Returning to my undying love for a good mold, I decided to make one myself. Because I wanted to attempt to match the color, I wanted to make sure that yellow would not get in the way, so I went for a strained version, which will create a white candle. This will ensure that whatever color you put into the melted wax will remain true. Speaking of colors, I went for a mad search for a color that would be as close to the inspiration candles as possible, and this box is what I came up with. I realize it is a lot of colors, but I figured I may need to mix a few to get the right shade that I was looking for. After my candle was dried and removed from the mold, it was time to carefully slice and carve the edges. After obtaining the desired look, I felt like it needed a little bit of shine and smoothness, so I wet a paper towel and gently softened the edges. It was after this point that I really felt like I reached my desired goal as far as replicating my taper candles. As you can see, the wax dries much lighter once cooled, so that's something to keep in mind. and homemade items that make the house feel like a home. Whether it's the memories they hold or the thoughtfulness they were made with, whatever it is, there is something about them that breathes fresh life into our spaces. So, if a DIY has been calling your name, I say, what are you waiting for?